listeners, to the Roanoke Presents From Print to Podcast. I'm your host, Liz Long, and today we're sitting down with one of this year's Best of Roanoke Reader Poll winners, someone whose work, resilience, and connection to this community clearly struck a chord with all of you based on the overwhelming number of votes. Justin and VanBlaricom, co-owner and CEO of Noke Van Co, was named your Platinum winner for Male Star of the Star City, a recognition that speaks not just to his business, but to the way he's shown up for Roanoke through both success and challenges, which we'll get into soon. And today's episode is a fun one. We're actually on site for this interview, which makes it even more special. If you check out our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see this conversation in their workspace with a look at some of the custom builds and the work happening in real time around us. So Justin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And I'm so glad to have you, as well as joined by your lovely wife, Keri VanBlaricom. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here too. And I'm excited to share for the first time that Justin is also our May-June cover star.
Wow.
So we've just sent the issue off to the printer, and I can't wait for the community to see it. And I'm actually going to show them on camera right now.
Yes, we have not heard.
So this is your cover coming out in May-June.
Wow, that's so good.
And so we're very excited, and thank you again for your time and for coming out. And so we had a lot of great options with you being in the studio, in your warehouse here. And so it was really exciting to be able to see all the options and, of course, see this build that you're creating right there in real time behind you. So before we get into everything that's happened over the past year, I want to start with this recognition that you received from our readers. So when you heard that readers chose you for something like Star of the Star City, what goes through your mind initially?
I don't even know what to think. I was actually on vacation because we hadn't taken a vacation, so I got the email when I was on the beach in Jamaica.
Nice.
And, so it was nice because I was finally getting a chance to just breathe and rest a little bit, and then I got that email, and so I was super excited. It's pretty special. We've grown up in Roanoke, and so Roanoke magazine's been around for our whole lives, and we've seen it everywhere growing up. So to be recognized in it and to be voted by the people in the community is pretty special.
I think that's fantastic. So you mentioned again your natives. You chose to build your business here in Roanoke. More than one business, by the way, which we'll also get into. But not just build them, but really invest in the community in a real way. And so, what made Roanoke feel like the place to do this? The obvious might be you're from here, but what was it that said, I want to be here? I want to build my business?
During COVID, I was a financial advisor for 18 plus years in Richmond, and then here, and then I decided I wanted to go back to business school, and so I went back to business school at UVA in their executive program. I got a job in North Carolina as the CFO for a commercial landscaping company, and I was just driving back and forth a lot, and so my kids and Keri decided to move down there with me, and so we actually rented some land and bought a fifth wheel and moved into that thinking that we were going to be there for 2 or 3 months while we figured out what neighborhood we wanted to live in and sell our house here. And then COVID hit, shut everything down.
Right.
And the kids stayed at home, so we spent 15 months in a fifth wheel while we rented our house out here. And then at the end of that, the kids were like, we want to go back to Roanoke. We want to go back to our friends.
Oh, really?
And my business partner here, came in and had lunch with him, and he said, what do you think about letting the kids lead on this one and doing, and I was like, if we move back to Roanoke, I want to start a business. I don't know what that is yet, but I want to start a business. So I started consulting a little bit. We moved back into our house that we had kept, and then just kept on talking about this van idea. And Josh was like, do you need a cheerleader or a partner? And I was like, I think I need a partner because I believe in sharing your ideas with everybody and seeing who comes alongside of you. And so then Josh, Keri, and I partnered up, decided to build one van, and that was the business. And we had submitted the proposal for the coffee shop at the same time.
Right.
It was right
You guys
before.
really don't you don't go just a little. You go real hard. Real hard.
Right. Yeah. You can sleep when you're dead, right?
Yeah. I hear that's the old saying. Well, I think that's so interesting because your background. I don't know, knowing you and what you do now. If you told me to guess what your background was, your previous life, I'd be like, oh, he was probably super into camping and things like that. And maybe you are, but I never would have put financial officer. Gosh, I feel so official and grown up.
That was the problem.
That too, and it was the problem. You were too grown up.
But I love that because you really. What was it about this business? Again, before we get into sort of the last year that you've been through, but what was it about putting together these models and these custom builds that really, what drew you into it? What made you so passionate about it?
Yeah, well, so I grew up, my mom had a business here in town as well in Roanoke. She was an interior designer, and my dad was an architect, and so I grew up working on houses constantly, constantly working. Nothing was ever finished. And then I worked in the summer times and in between college semesters for my mom, installing furniture and installing schools and all sorts of stuff. And so I was just always been super passionate about remodeling and real estate and that sort of thing. So we had this kind of side portfolio of some rental properties that we always worked on. And so then with going to business school and doing the CFO role, it kind of like everything was churning at the same time to like give me the education I needed in order to run my own business.
It is funny, you're talking about your growing up and your background. Like now I'm like, oh.
That's what I was going to say. Like, truly, even his former stepdad, who's still very involved in our lives now, is an architect as well. And so he grew up ripping shingles off of a farmhouse at age 10, probably. He grew up learning how to do electrical things. And so his brain definitely works like that. It's mechanically inclined. There's not a problem that he can't solve. We have Emily sign everything is figure-outable. And I think that is a true statement to both Josh and Justin in the way that their brains work. So he has a little bit of jack of all trades in him, and that married with an entrepreneurial spirit was like, it took me a long time in our marriage to just stop wrestling with all these big ideas, because I would track one big idea and then I'd bring it back up and it scared me half to death, and then I'd bring it up 2 weeks later and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, didn't even remember. And I think that is a
You're that raccoon with the shiny idea.
The spirit of that is
as a writer, I relate.
One day he'll land on exactly what he really loves, and that is this. I mean, it encompasses so much of his personality.
It feels like a perfect like kismet, right? All these experiences and education and knowledge that you've kind of like accrued over your lifetime have led to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the perfect blend of like, because I think that from in the entrepreneurial world, there's always the saying of like, find what you're best in the world at and do that thing. And I have a problem with that because I don't feel like I'm the best at anything, but I'm very uniquely
I put a pin in that. I love that because I think there's a lot of people out in the world who go, I want to do something, but I don't know what. And you have found this niche that like works so perfectly for you and your family and your team. Like that's so it's kismet. Like I love that.
And hopefully it resonates with more people and is almost like an encouragement of like, oh yeah, I'm not a master of like one thing. Some are. And they're we need those people.
Totally.
Like we have those people here that work for us. And so, but also for those that are like, I like a lot of things. Maybe for this season in your life, you do a portion of that skill or talent, and it changes.
And sometimes the thing that you're best at is the combination of things that you're gifted at. So it's like that's where I think that I'm uniquely suited for this role because of the finance and because of the MBA and because of the construction experience and all that stuff.
But I bet at 20 you didn't know this would be a thing.
Absolutely.
Well, so let's talk real quick about April 2025, which is a year at the time of this recording, about a year ago. And so with as much detail as you feel comfortable sharing, this was obviously a defining moment, both for you, for your family, for your staff, but for the business as a whole. So when you think back to this night of the fire, what stands out most to you, if you don't mind just giving readers or listeners a real quick recap of that?
Oh, man. So we actually, ironically, it was fire pit season, so we were on our front porch with a fire pit and our neighbors came over and we had just left and like dispersed and we went into bed and the neighbor that was over called me and was like, hey, I just saw on Facebook that there's a fire in Southeast.
You found about it from somebody who saw it on Facebook. I mean,
I think on the Roanoke checkpoint page.
So then I immediately pulled up my cameras on my phone and saw the last picture that was taken was just filled with smoke. So then I knew it was us. And so she was putting the kids to bed and I just took off out the door.
And how old were your kids at this time a year ago?
Yeah, our daughter was a senior last year in high school, and then son was a freshman. Youngest daughter was 8th grade.
Yeah, so Maddie had already gone to sleep because we were all going to, she's a first year at UVA, and that was her
she had a day on the line
the first
for
day.
Orientation.
So she had already gone to bed, so we just left her sleeping, and then the other two were still up, and I just ran out the door, and then I got to the bridge. I
didn't yet know it was ours. I think he knew but couldn't articulate because he saw the camera. And then the photo came through on the text chain from our neighbor. Look, it was loading, and I was completely arrested. I was like, that is our building. Oh my gosh. So that's why I just loaded everybody up and started driving.
I cannot imagine the sheer force of emotion that had to have been going through at the time.
Yeah. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. And I was calling friends. I was calling Josh and couldn't get a hold of him, our business partner, and his wife Jen.
We got one of his neighbors.
We got another neighbor, and she was still awake. And I was just like, "Our building's on fire. We're losing everything." Justin, Sarah, wake up, Josh, because they're close together in proximity.
Yeah.
And they all rushed over, and he called me on the way too, and. Just could barely speak because it was pretty much gone at that point. It was just after midnight.
Yeah, the police stopped me on the bridge, this 9th Street bridge, and I was like, "Is that at Noke Van Co?" And he's like, "I don't know where it is." And so I was like, "Well, I'm gonna go find out."
I'm about to get arrested, or you're gonna let me on my way?
Yeah,
it's like you can't drive. You can't drive this way. And I was like, "It's your car. I'm just leaving it right here." And I just kind of ran over, and then the first firefighter that stopped me. I was like, "I'm the owner of Noke Van Co." And he's like, "Is that the RV business?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, that's your building."
Oh my gosh.
And so then it was just like, he held me there until I guess the fire chief or fire marshal gave me like clearance to come over to the other side. And but when I got there, there was so many firefighters. It was fully engulfed. There was no way to put it out. It was just watch it. So we watched it, stood there and watched it burn for 9 hours.
Yeah, I think it took a total of 12 to
12 total, but...
Well, and for what it's worth, so obviously I'm looking at it through the Roanokers, social media feeds and things like that, and it was like all anybody talked about that day. And I don't mean like, oh my God, a gossipy way, but like, what are we going to do to help these guys? Like, what do we need? Like, people who, I'm sure the community came out for you in a lot of different ways. Absolutely. I mean, especially those first 48, 72 hours. But, it was pretty incredible to see so many people all up. It was sort of like the community stopped. Just to talk about this thing and go, what are we going to do for them? I thought that was pretty incredible.
Which we felt and we saw, absolutely. Even though we didn't know.
Well, it was just kind of like there's so much happening. So much happening at one. Like that's where I was like, we need to write down everybody that's done anything, and so we tried to send thank you letters to everybody that we could think of. But it's just there's so many people that reached out and helped, and I mean from like furniture for our offices, for our new office, and then space, and we had meetings that like we had to meet as a leadership team right away, and so the quarters gave us some meeting space that we could meet in, and there was just offers coming from everywhere, and I was like, I don't want to like disappoint people, but there was just so much.
I would be rude, but now I've got 4 people offering me things.
So many people supported, and
but I love that. That really speaks highly to the community. Amazing. Again, you guys have been here, you're natives, you know enough people, and it's not just about that, but I'm sure you had people you didn't even know coming out of the woodwork to try and figure out what do you need. Well, you had mentioned just now, and of course in the interview that we have that's going to be on the Roanoker.com, but you mentioned calling your team together right after the fire, and you're starting from scratch, from zero. And so, what did you learn maybe about leadership in that moment that you didn't know before?
That's a great question. So obviously going and getting my MBA and going through all there's a lot of leadership courses and a lot of academic courses on how to lead people and the tools required and different set of tools for people than technical, but that all goes out the window
in the wake of destruction.
When everything's gone. And so to me it was just like I don't know any different. It was just this is a dream, and I told my guys like this company, and it scares her, but I've reaffirm this with them, but like this company is so much a part of who I am that there's no other option than to just keep moving forward. And because I feel like what I've said to them is I would die before the company dies, and I just leave it all in because there's no backup plan. There's no I burned the boats, if you will, and there's no other I'm not doing anything else. This is the company I want to run for the rest of my life, and so it was super important to me to just do the next thing that I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know I can make one step forward today. And so that's what I did is I made sure Josh and Keri are on the same page that we're not failure's not an option here. This is just a setback where we know that we're part of the story of what we're building here. We just thought we were further along in the story, and we're still at the beginning. And so then it was just a matter of the first thing, what's the first most important thing? And it was the people. And so I made a pledge to them that I was going to make sure everybody stays on board. I don't want to lose anybody. We're going to be back in business as fast as possible. and I wanted to make sure everybody was here for that, because everybody's kind of a part of the family. And so I was like, well, I'm going to figure out how to keep you guys paid, even if you're picking up nails in the parking lot, because we couldn't work on vans.
Right. Yeah, we couldn't build because we weren't.
Yeah, so they were painting and sweeping and everything. And I was like, we're going to run out of money real fast because we got no revenue coming in. And that's when the community stepped up and started the GoFundMe, and then the Economic Development Authority stepped up. And so they gave us a little bit of breathing room to get through that first month to figure out, kind of circle the wagons and figure out what our next step was. But we couldn't have done it without the community.
And I remember you guys were, and we talked about this a little bit in your interview too, but like one of the things I think is most interesting is your kind of your social media and your transparency that you have with the community, with your fans and listeners and readers. And so you had somebody on site filming, like, this is day 3, this is day 5, this is what we're doing, we're picking up nails in the parking lot, or we're sweeping up the brush and we got to get it done. And I think that was probably very impactful for a lot of people to see, like, you're not just, I don't know, kind of slumping your shoulders and moving along as best you can. You really made sure that people saw the result of this fire. And I think that's very interesting that you were so transparent about it, because people felt even more moved to help, because they thought, this is not something that's just a little bump in the road. This is a huge obstacle.
Well, and I think it was important for us to show in that time, because people had been like overwhelming support. And I wanted people to know, like, what they're supporting. And so the people everything's about the people that work for us and our customers. And so that's the message that we wanted to share with them. It's like, hey, these are the people that you're helping out. And these are, just to make it very, like, results, like they know exactly what they're going to support. And it's not like giving money blindly to something.
Right. Sometimes you see something, you're like, I don't know. But I mean, really, you're being very open about, here's where your money is going, here's where your support is going. I think that's really important. Exactly. And so a lot of people, they see this comeback, or what looks like a comeback. Again, it's a year later that we're sitting down talking about this. We're in your new space. You gave me a really cool tour, seeing what those new builds are looking like. But how would you describe where things actually are right now? Because I thought your answer to the interview was really interesting.
Yeah. I said, when I think about it, it's like, it has been a year, in the wake of, you always see all the comment, like, I read every comment about
Don't
anything.
do that.
I know you shouldn't do that, but I still do. Some of it motivates me, some of it doesn't. But it's easy, like, when there's a disaster like this, there's people that will comment about, like, it's for the insurance, or they'll be fine if they got insurance, like, all these things. And the reality of a situation like this is that nobody's ever fine. Like, insurance is not there they're not on your side.
Right, they're not writing you a check the next day.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
And so we're still, like, we're a year out, and we've gotten paid 10% of the claim so far. Yeah. So there's a lot of work and like, we're trying to do right by customers that lost their dreams and their adventures. And
sure.
So we had a nonprofit that his van was finished. He was picking it up on Saturday, and it burned Friday night. We had 2 vans that we finished that Friday, and he was picking up on his way, and we called him and said, hey, don't come, everything's gone.
Right.
And he's like, I'm still coming. And then so he came to the fire while it was still burning, and he's like, when can you be back open? And I said, we'll be back open by the end of the week. And he was like, I'll have you a van next week. And so he brought another van. He's like, we call it the Phoenix. I want it to be the first van you build. But he's a nonprofit, and it's a vet. It's Warrior Expedition, so it's to get veterans out and help them cope with things and do hikes and adventures and that sort of thing. And so it was very important to his business and his programming that he had a van to go do his programming by March 1st. And I was like, we'll build you a van and we'll figure out the money later. And so we built it. We built it completely, and then we're hopeful that the insurance will pay us eventually for it, because he needed to move on. We were passionate about his cause, and so, but we've got that with a bunch of people. So prices have gone up. Everything's gone up since we built their vans, but we had 22 vehicles inside the warehouse when it burned. So there's a lot of people affected by it. So we're trying to do right by all of them, which is at an expense of profitability, which is not the most important thing right now. It's survival until insurance pays out, and then we can see that. So we're just been trudging through kind of cash flow and all those obstacles, just trying to survive long enough that insurance does their job. And so I say it as like the metaphor of like, people see us as recovered and that we're like back, and we get comments all the time, it's like, so great to see you guys back. And the reality is like, we were flat on our face when the fire hit that Saturday or Friday night, and then now we've gotten up to our knees, but we're not standing up yet. We're not even close.
Well, I just thought that answer was so interesting because, again, I think a lot of people do misunderstand, not even just the insurance part, but just, they have a warehouse space, so they're good. Like, no, so we did the tour.
Yeah.
You were walking me through, and you're telling me all this extra stuff you had to do to the new warehouse space to make it viable.
Yeah.
And so you're still working on those things.
Yeah.
Fireproof walls and things like that. And so that's, again, not something you just move your van into and you're ready to go. Like, you have to make space and find places where people can work safely and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we couldn't, we had van, like that guy did bring us a van the next week, and we couldn't work on it. We couldn't work on it because we didn't have a business license. We didn't have a temporary CO. And so we were literally like trying to keep our guys employed by sweeping and painting and moving stuff around. Yeah. And then Riverdale and Ed, like they came to us straight like the day of the fire and the next day, and they were like, we got these spaces I want you to go look at, see which one you want, and we'll move you right in there. And so they've done a ton of work to get us back up and running as fast as possible. And we couldn't, like, we were back up in 26 business days. Yeah. We got our business license, our temporary CO, and we couldn't have done that without Riverdale.
Without Riverdale, correct.
So it was it's great, and it's but it's a ton of work and a ton of people helping, and they spend way more money than we had available in just getting this, doing the firewall, doing this alarm system, still working on the sprinkler system, and all of that in order to get us a permanent CO. But we still are under 30 days. 30 days was my goal that I set, like that Monday morning. I was like, I want to be back in business in 30 days, and we got it in 26 business days.
I was joking with you about how you do not work the normal 8 to 5 business hours, but that's bananas. You're working at midnight, 2 a.m. probably, doing all that.
But no sleep, all the things.
Yeah, there's definitely no sleep, especially after something like that.
Well, so if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about that, because I think I was really appreciative. Again, we were talking about sort of the mental side of all this, and so I really appreciated your transparency, not as a supporter or a local, but just as a human being who saw somebody go through something. And so you're still dealing with the after effects of that, not just you, but obviously your family and your staff. So the stress, this toll that it takes, that's really not something that every business owner talks about. So I really appreciated you just laying it on the line like that. And I think I was wondering why it was important for you to acknowledge that piece.
Because I think there's so much about entrepreneurship in general, and I do, like, I have another part-time position at Roanoke College in entrepreneurship.
Okay, we're going to do your resume after this, because I've lost track of how many jobs you do.
So I think it's important that every entrepreneur knows that, like, it sucks. Like, it's a hard thing, and it's not meant for everybody. And there's parts of it that suck, and there's parts of it that are amazing. And so you have to be driven and passionate about what you're doing in order to make it through. And so with that, like, there's real struggles, and especially when something like this happens, and it got super dark. Like, I've never had anything like this happen before, but your focus gets like so into the day to day instead of like the long-term vision of your company. All your dreams are out the window, and you're like, how do I survive today? And it's just and then you've got 20 families to feed on top of it, and not know where money's going to come from. And so it's just that there's a lot of stress with that, and I've never had anything like it, but I also I've always gone to like counseling and stuff like that, and feel like it's a normal part of maintenance. And so when this happened, it was beyond anything that I've prepared for mentally. And so then I didn't know, like, the reactions I was having in the sleep, and panic attacks, and just hypervigilance, and like checking my phone constantly. Anytime there was one time that I fell asleep on the couch taking a nap, and I heard a chime, which is my phone. Even when it's on silent, it chimes when the alarm here goes off.
Okay.
And so typically that's a fire or smoke alarm chime, and so it woke me up, and I fully panicked. I couldn't find my phone, and I found it plugged in the other room, and it wasn't my phone. It was the Roomba that had charged, and I was like, I'm not okay.
It's so understandable, though. Obviously, like this is not something you're just going to get over. We were talking real quick before we started about you had a situation just this past weekend where you saw firefighters, and you're like, do more, you know, and they know what they're doing. Obviously, it's just it's you reacting to that situation because you've lived it.
Yeah. That was. I mean, that's the biggest thing, and I mean, it's been a year since the fire. And that's, I think, with mental health stuff, and I mean, I've had great help and friends and doctors and all that stuff that have helped, and different medications I was on just blood pressure medicine for the last 20 years, and now I'm on like 4 different medicines just to
pick
get
up
through
our
the
grocery
day.
bag from CVS every month of like help.
Yeah,
right.
But it is like you just don't. And then I thought until this weekend, like I had a revelation this weekend when this incident happened, and I was at my brother's house, and a tree caught on fire outside because it hit the power line, and it's an old cedar tree that's dead, and so those things burn like a power because that's just standard procedure. So in my head, it just went to worst case scenario, and they were not putting it out, waiting on the power company, and I don't know.
It's a fire engine. It's fire. It's people discussing what's the next best step.
And I was like, just put the fire out, please.
Yeah. And
before
he
it spreads.
Immediately was like, here, you know, not in his throat. And
then like after they put it out, I came down off of that because everything was fine again, and that's like I just lost I lost it, and I was like, this is not a normal reaction to something like this. Like this is.
But it is understandable because of your situation. Like that's not normal. What has happened to you guys and to your business, like that's something that's. I mean, you might be thinking about that 20 years from now and still wake up when your phone chimes, you know, and like that's understandable.
And I think I want to add to that, and what you said earlier, Liz, of our transparency on social media. And I think the most that I have grown in my adult life, I think, is because of people's stories and their transparency. And I'm a firstborn. I have all the firstborn tendencies. I don't want to fail. I don't want to try new things until I absolutely know that it's going to run perfectly and smoothly like a well-oiled machine.
We're the same.
Yeah.
It scares me half to death to start something like this, but it's growing me and it's pulling me. And so the transparency of other people's lives and realizing that life here, I believe, was never meant to be perfect. It was never meant to be a well-oiled machine. And there's so many things outside of our control that, like, watching him and Josh and Jen and myself, it all affected us differently. But ultimately, having you being the one with PTSD and really having this, like, post-traumatic stress that rises up when you least expect it, I think we don't tell it or share it. I mean, look at us. It's like, this is what we know to be true because we have friends that have adopted kids that had trauma in their lives as babies, you know, and we've seen them walk through raising those kids and what that looks like, and then how that is a similar preparation that we didn't even know about, you know, and coming into a situation like this that we're like, this happens to people, and our bodies remember and they do respond, and it's a matter of finding like healthy best options for today and for the next week to move forward through it and hopefully continue to grow, but not to stuff it, because he used to stuff everything and he used to bottle everything.
Well, and that's so relatable, understandable in your circumstances, and relatable to anybody who's been through a situation where they were unprepared or you know, taken by surprise like that. And so I think that's again that transparency and just sharing some of that with you know, your fans and your supporters and all that. They go, gosh, you know, they're really just getting through it day by day like everybody else, right?
Like totally. We're human. Let's humanize it.
You're successful entrepreneurs, but you're also human, like that every day. And so you've mentioned your team a lot, and I want to talk about your team because I think it's just amazing, like that you were able to keep them on staff, to keep them moving forward, to keep them paid. And so through everything, this team has stayed with you. You've been moving forward every single day. You know, what has that meant to you? Like, has that dynamic changed since things have, you know, changed from the fire? Or
I mean, I think that we've created this. I mean, intentionally, but also unintentionally. It's kind of escalated where like our guys and girls, our like family. Like everybody likes to hang out with each other after work. They go hiking on the weekends, and like it's all part of this culture. Like when we talked about wanting to start business, it was for creating something, not just a product, and not to get rich and to. I mean, it'd be great to have some money.
Can you get rich doing custom builds?
Yeah, it'd be great to have more money than we currently have.
I think everybody thinks that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like we want to do something that we enjoy doing. I always talk about the definition of success for me is to not wake up to an alarm clock, because I'm passionate about what I'm going to do that day. And so not having an alarm clock is my definition of success, and so that's enough for me. And so I'm excited to get to work every day with this group of people that consistently gets better. They've all lost things in the fire. Everybody lost tools. Everybody lost their personal stuff.
Vehicles.
And they've all just stayed with us, and know that I'm not going to give up until all of them are made whole again, with the insurance and with wherever I need to find that money, I'll find it.
Well, for the record, Mel, Star of the Star City, there's this thing that I feel very strongly about with leaders, and I bet you're going to agree with me, Keri, is, a good leader's never going to ask their employees to do something they wouldn't do themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very important to see your boss doing the things that he thinks are important, that he wants to pass on to you, so you can trust that he believes that you can do it. And I think that you going out there and sweeping up ash and cleaning up and doing those things, it's not just about the comfort of having a job, but it's about seeing someone, inspiring them to really stay and see what comes next.
Absolutely.
And so I think that your leadership there is pretty clearly bolstered your entire staff,
Yeah, they're amazing people, and I mean, it's been, we've had, like we tried to reframe this whole thing as an opportunity for Noke Van 2.0 to keep all of the good things of Noke Van 1.0 and then leave behind at the fire.
Yeah, learn from it.
Yeah, all the bad things. And so we've restructured a lot of stuff. We've done a lot of process and procedure development and stuff like that. Which is really like we had time to focus on those things because we couldn't work on vans. So we've spent a lot of time with the staff of creating how we're going to be successful longer term. Yeah. That I don't think we would have had the opportunity to do had we not had the fire. Right. So and we started using EOS. Yeah, the entrepreneur operating system, entrepreneurial operating system, as a structure for our company. And so we had just started it right before the fire, and so we were able to we had a consultant that was working with us for that, and so we were able to really dive into that and restructure our accountability chart, everything, in order to build what is going to be successful long term. And every one of those people that we have played. I mean, we hired a couple more people since then. And it's not like we're flush with cash, but we know that these are the people that we need in order to achieve the goals
to grow,
that we want to
to be where you want to be. Yeah. Well, and that's just so interesting because your staff has seen you go through all of this, and they've seen you lead, and again, there pros and cons seems very gauche to say about the situation, but the pros, if any, that come out of this are learning from the experience and growing to make sure that your next venture is as solid as it could be. So I think that's really quite fascinating. Again, talking about the huge outpouring of support from the community, was there ever a moment where that support maybe hit you in a way you didn't expect?
I think I talked a little bit in the interview about Matt Thompson with Fleet Feet and him coming the night of the fire. He ran past the police line and just ran over to us. And he's had huge tragedy in his life, and so he just gave me perspective of this is totally, you're gonna be fine. It's just stuff.
We didn't lose anything.
And that's where and I've heard I've corrected in our staff of early on when people were talking about the fire of this was the worst case scenario for a small business. I was it's not. There's one thing worse, and that's if somebody got hurt. Yeah, somebody got hurt or died, and so that was. I was we're not. We're not at the worst that we could possibly do, and if we can make it through this, we can make it through anything. So we've even had discussions because of cash flow with the guys that they've been concerned about the long-term sustainability of our company, and I was like, I told him, like, I'm going to die before this company dies, and it just is like the just trust that I'm going to do everything we can to stay around, and that's where the community, like we had people selling T-shirts, we had, and that Matt helped with that as well, and then I think that when we went to Barrows, right?
Barrows Office Furniture.
Yeah, office furniture. They called us and was like, "Come get whatever you need to outfit." And they gave us the carpet tiles, the trim, and we installed all these desks, like sit-stand desks, all the furniture, to just like we could get right back into our desks. Like the next day, because they donated all that stuff to us.
Which sounds like, I mean, it sounds like such a small thing, but like you can't sit on the floor and work with your laptop when you're laptop.
Yeah, right.
Like that's a huge, it's a huge way into feeling like you're going back to some frame of normalcy.
Yeah.
To having just an office and a desk.
Yeah, and like our leadership team went to their warehouse and we went through it, and they told us all the things that they had, and we could like pick out whatever we wanted. So it was just like.
The same with Rob at Bobby's Hot and Cheesy.
Yeah, and then we went that next day. We went to lunch.
We do need a spot
team,
because there's not an open door yet, and the fire, this is gone, this space, and so he provided lunch for us just so we could all breathe and take our real first like deep breath.
Yeah.
2 business days in. So I think there are so many places of unexpected support that it's hard because it's humbling. But it's good because it's humbling, and the lowly, like, kind of space that we're in, it's like you can only go up, and hopefully people will then see, because of others and because you sit with your neighbor and you reach out and you support, even in those small ways, like every single thing matters.
Well, and you mentioned your very dark joke that I'm sure Keri hates about you dying before this company does, but I expect some of this does come from the fact that the outpouring of the community shows you I don't need to go anywhere. I have everything I need here.
Absolutely.
I just have to rebuild.
Yeah, and I think so. One of the things that I reflected on recently was I always doom scroll on Instagram before I go to sleep.
Stop that.
And there was one T-shirt that kept coming up, and it was like, I guess it's because of the entrepreneurial algorithm, but the T-shirt says, "Nobody cares, work harder." And so people, I guess, are buying this as a motivating force in their life to work harder. But to me, it was like that's the way that I was working before the fire.
It resonated with you. You're like, oh, that is how I think.
And then after the fire, and so much support, and so many of the people around us and community, and like everybody cares. Like it's not about me working harder. It's everybody's here to support, and everybody cares. And so that's just a lie that I was telling myself that that it's like that whole mind shift of like, there are people. I mean, there's plenty of people that are not for you, but the overwhelming support that we got it just shows us that like we're doing the right thing. We're doing right by our customers. We're doing right by our community, and people are supportive of that. And
I think to piggyback on that, I think you would agree, it reaffirmed why we chose to start business back here in Roanoke. And it wasn't really that we had a plan. We were still working for the North Carolina company when we moved back. There was still maybe I'll consult, but there was a span of time where we had no idea that starting a business other than the coffee shop was that also going to be building camper vans. But the outdoor community and Roanoke Outside and the whole team that's been leading that charge of outdoor growth here in the valley was so attractive to us. There were people that we were like, how are we going to get in front of? How are we going to meet between even Ed Walker and Whit Ellerman and Pete Eshelman, and then all of a sudden we're in their email boxes,
right,
and we're in their inboxes, and we're like, oh my gosh, we didn't even know you were working on that, or we didn't even. So we were like so to have them also be cheering you on and knowing, like, I knew then his idea, because he's a survivor and because he is stubborn and dedicated and has ridiculous perseverance, you know, then this would be a beautiful place, you know, to create a camper van company that hopefully becomes the East Coast spot, you know, and that there's many more layers to just what this has started.
Yeah, and that feels like such an obvious thing now that you point out, like, oh, duh, light bulb. Like, of course Roanoke in this region was the perfect space for what you're building because there are people who come here, tourism, for the outdoors.
Absolutely.
So that's so, like, duh, Liz. Like, it's perfect, right? And again, I feel like I keep using that word kismet, but it really just feels like everything has culminated into this community, you know, space that now you're owing. You mentioned the coffee shop, so I want to jump on that real quick. But so, you know, Justin and Keri, they have Fishburne Perk coffee shop coming. Any news on that front? I don't want to put a lot of pressure on you. But
no, that's okay. We're finally moving again.
Yay!
So it certainly did a lot of work, and my first contractor was out there to stabilize the building, really evaluate and stabilize the foundation at the end of 2024.
Because for the record, that's not an easy project. That's not a move your stuff in and let's go.
200
Yeah, you guys really don't take on easy projects. You really like to go in hard for the difficult
and
stuff.
that was started because our daughter was like, could we ever own a coffee shop? And to give you time perspective, that was her 8th grade summer leading into her 9th grade year in high school, and now she's a first year in college. So the process was very arduous, and just, here, we're interested, can we buy it? Yes, after 2 years of pursuance, you know, and so
you really jumped through a lot of hoops. Sorry, I know just how you jumped through a lot of hoops to get to even where you are currently.
Exactly, and large, again, overwhelming support, but some loud, you know, naysayers that really pressed hard on the city and spoke a lot against it, even though it was few. And so that definitely added to the arduous process, and a lot of it was just sort of tactical and delaying it and making it harder to move forward. But through that, we got through the permit. Sorry, it's going to pick up noise.
We're on a live site, folks.
And we found the cabin was way more stable than what anybody ever would have thought.
Oh, good.
And to be honest,
cheaper, just stable.
Not cheaper. No, it's going to be expensive. But you know, the newest construction on that house was an enclosed porch, right? And they needed the folks that lived there needed it to house their family as they were growing, and it had the worst damage because of rain and roof repair. But the log cabin and the timber frames, like all of those pieces were so structurally sound and very little out of level even. It made the foundation work so much, it made it accomplishable. And so we are now, but then I put a roof on it last May, and that's it, because the fire was April. We put the roof on it in May, and so I kept thinking I could pick it back up. And the emotional, like, mess I think that we were in, and just the brain power that wasn't there. Sort of took all through the Christmas season. Thankfully, we didn't grieve at the same time or in the same ways, and mine was further delayed. And so
that's what a good marriage has to do, right? Balance each other at the right times.
This is okay. And so being able to give each other space to act out and not be okay and it be in completely separate time frames was actually super helpful looking back on it. So I just received approval for the registry, so there's a national and a state historic landmark. So the house will move forward to the final phase of approval, and it will be deemed a national, both national and state landmark. So it'll be on the registry, and people will drive through and come through, you know, that didn't know there was this cute log cabin.
Well, I love it. I can't wait. So our old office was on Brambleton, so I drive by it every day. You know, I want to take a little peek.
That's right.
You know, and obviously Fishburne, or the park itself is just a great little space to walk, and you know, it's up right. You end up right behind the middle school. Like, oh, okay.
It's perfect. Cut through the high school has a path.
And
others
we grew up in the park too.
We grew up sledding in that park and had school parties in that park.
Oh my gosh! Every time it snows and they're coming down the hill.
And it's very common in other cities in Asheville and Greenville, South Carolina. Like, there are amenities in local parks. There are businesses, and it's proven to foster use of the park.
I can't say anything but that for this. I think it's
hopefully we will follow suit.
And it's been, I mean, obviously that's been a whole struggle. We did just get an extension from the city. We went to city council a couple weeks ago got extended the performance contract. The performance agreement that we had with the city was that we would spend at least $150,000 restoring this thing. Obviously, it's going to be way more than that. We've already spent that. We've already spent past that, and we're not even to the inside yet. So, but there were still some naysayers. The same people came back out to, and it's just part of when you're trying to do something. There's always
you're never going to make
somebody
everybody
that's
happy.
Yeah.
So we just try to take that with a grain of salt and then move forward. But we had some lawsuits to settle on that side.
You've had a couple things on your plate.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I'm thrilled to hear forward
you.
motion in any capacity that means
Yes.
it for you.
Yes.
I think people are going to really enjoy it. And of course, it's one more thing you guys really dig into. You do not do easy projects. You really like a challenge, clearly.
Apparently.
Yeah, then we'll figure out.
And it will be open. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
we're
got to
gonna be
have it
open.
done next spring. So,
Yay, okay, good.
if I can, by way of miracle, have it done faster, I will.
Good.
Still get the other two kids to work there.
And yes.
Yeah, now it's your turn for the coffee
Yeah.
shop. I'm like, wait a minute, it was our suggestion.
Yeah.
Well, and so you mentioned in the interview, and whether it's in reference to the coffee shop or anything else, but you mentioned you're starting to dream again,
Yeah.
which I really love because again, a year later, you're still dealing with a lot of the aftermath. But when you think about the future, and I love that you said you just don't want to set an alarm, you want to pop out of bed ready to be excited to go. But what excites you most about what you're building? Not just physically in this space, but
Yeah. Well, I think that so for the first 10 months probably, I was just focused on getting through the day, and now trying to as we have restructured and got all the people in the right places and all that, where I can have a vision again of looking out the front window, and I've got people that are looking through the rear view, and I don't have to spend a lot of my energy there. I'd love to. I mean, what we hope to grow this into is we want a campground. We want so we're hopeful that the Roanoke campground opens back up because it's right up the street here. But we want something nearby where people can come in their vans and explore this area that has enough van-specific stuff. And then and we'd also like a dealership lot. And so I'm looking at, because we're dealers, we've got a couple vans for sale right now, but we don't have the traffic or visibility here. So I'm looking at a second location, and then have this van camp is what I call it, where it's like a campground, buy vans, all the things in one spot. So that's where I'm dreaming into now for the future of how do we expand even further. And then on our service and upgrade side, we've grown a ton, so we can do a lot more service and upgrades. So then looking at ways to expand that further than just here. And so those are all things that I think I'm a big believer in. If you're not growing, you're dying. And so we're constantly looking for new ways to grow. And then honestly, we've started develop we've got engineers now, and we're developing our own products and CNC cutting those. And so everything, we've been focusing all this investment on what's coming down the road. And so I'm excited to get to where those are starting to pay off. And then I've recently dove pretty hard into AI.
Okay.
And just how that, because I think there's a big future in AI, and I think there's a gap right now of before everybody adopts it, where it can make the most impact in your business. And so there's not a lot of van companies out there that are using AI, and so we're figuring out ways that we can be on the leading edge of those things.
I don't want you to give away all your secrets, but I want to know more about that off the record.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
ultimately, if we can create van land,
Yeah.
van camp,
Van
here
camp.
If you got some
Roanoke,
glamping options,
surrounding
sign me
Yeah,
up. I'm all
absolutely.
about it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned again, sort of being an entrepreneur. For those who are entrepreneurs or thinking about it, for listeners who might be going through their own version of a setback or might be facing one in the future, maybe it's not as visible but just as real. What advice might you give them, or what would you want them to hear from your experience?
Yeah, I think ultimately, what stops most businesses from being successful, or most entrepreneurs from being successful, is that ability to push past the hard and see things as speed bumps instead of walls. And so to me, it's it's a pretty big friggin' speed bump, but it's not the end of the road. It's not the wall. And so that's where I think most people give up when it gets really hard. And actually, during when the fire happened, I was also teaching a class at Roanoke College on entrepreneurship, and so I had a class of 12 students, and
Think of an April.
so then Keri and I, did Josh come too, or did she?
You and I.
Yeah, and we went. I was like, come into class, let's talk to him about the fire, and like that's not something that they're going to learn in any other class about. Like, how do you move forward from something like this? And we didn't know, because it'd been 3 days when I had class. I didn't know it, but I felt like it was important to like share. Like, this is, if you sign up for this entrepreneurial dream, it's not a dream about making tons of money. It's about finding your passion and doing what you're passionate about every day, and that's what's got to keep you through. That's what's going to drive you when stuff gets hard, and it's going to be like there's going to be hard parts along the way. Whether it might not be as extreme as a fire, but there's still if you talk to any entrepreneur, they've all got a story of like how they almost gave up, and I think that success comes on the backside of almost giving up.
I would agree with that. And sometimes it's hard to see that when you're 20, right? Like, it's a little bit easier to see it when you're maybe a more fully grown adult, maybe not a dull, but when you're more of a grown up.
Experience.
Yeah, and it's not about getting famous and rich. It's about doing what makes you happy, like you said, what you're passionate about. And if you can make a daily life being content with that, being surrounded by a supportive community, I think that's really important. So that's great advice. I love that. I love that you spoke to them in real time too. Like, this just happened, but you know what? It could happen.
And they asked great questions, and they were very involved, and also
and I bet they learned a whole lot.
Hopefully.
In that, just in that 1 hour, they're like, man, I know how to get through it if it ever happens to me. So I think that's really important that you're passing that on. And so before we wrap up, zooming out a bit, what do you think this past year has taught you about Roanoke as a community?
I can't imagine living anywhere else. I mean, just we knew the outdoor business community is amazing, and we knew that all along, but just the people, like, this is home, this is where we belong, and hopefully we'll be in a situation where we can help other people also fulfill that. And so we've tried to do that with doing some work for other businesses and stuff, other small businesses, because I'm a huge believer in small business and how small business drives. I mean, obviously there's some big industry here in Roanoke too, but at the end of the day, it's the small businesses that are kind of keeping Roanoke as a great place to be.
We're all like spokes on the larger wheel, so it's like we got it. One spoke breaks. So we need small business. We need people that are doing. And
just there's so many people moving to this area, and they're like, especially in the outdoor arena, and so many things that Roanoke is doing to salute the fact that we're this outdoor town and trying to get more people in that are. I just think it's a great place to live, and I can't imagine being anywhere else. And with the people of Roanoke, especially, like, I mean, I thought we knew a lot of people because we both grew up here, and we started dating in high school. So like, people know. We went to different schools, so we'd have lots of community, but there's so much more, like, I don't know, it's just, there's so much more people that are supportive and good, and so occasionally there's a bad apple, but it just gets smothered by all the good that's around us.
Well, I mean, it clearly resonates because, I mean, like I said, I the overwhelming number of votes for you for Star the Star City, it shows you're making an impact. They've seen the work that you're doing. They see you as an entrepreneur continuing to push through the hardest of the hard, right, and to continue doing it. And honestly, before we wrap up, I forgot to ask you about your tattoo because I asked about it in our written interview, and so I want to talk about that real quick because I love it. As soon as I saw the photo, I was like, I love that tattoo in general, but also I love how much meaning is behind it.
Oh my gosh!
So if you don't mind sharing just a little bit, and I'm going to share a picture in the video of it because I love it so much.
So we had,
pretty cool.
And I just showed them for the first time.
I'm the like famous. I want like 6 different tattoos, and I have 0. Because I can't commit to like making it. But Justin's like, nope. This
is the one I
want.
This
is good.
No, I love it.
So
I love the story.
This is the keychain, but one of our close friends, it's another couple, and they gave Josh and I both these keychains after the fire, and with a little, and it has a buffalo nickel on it, but it had a little description, and it said that it was about the difference between buffaloes and cows. And cows, when there's a a storm, a cow will run away from it, and it actually ends up making it longer. Where a buffalo will just run right into the storm, and so they face it head on, and they get through it faster. And so they gave us that as like kind of like a motivation to just keep going forward. And
I couldn't find a more appropriate metaphor.
Oh my
for you.
gosh! Yeah, that's what I was like. This is
like a buffalo.
Yeah. So then I'm in the Virginia Council of CEOs, and I have this round table, and so I was talking to my group, and I said, hey, I want to get this buffalo tattoo that just like, and they're all entrepreneurs and all business owners, and they've all gone through their own stuff and hard stuff. And so I explained to them the story of the buffalo and how it goes through the storm, and they were like, we're in. So we
want a tattoo.
We want it too. And so
group trip.
So we did a group trip to the tattoo to Ironheart. And so he's another small business, and so we went there one night, and 3 of us ended up getting buffalo tattoos. I got the biggest one. The other 2 had it on the back of their arm, but to me it was like the buffalo, obviously the meaning of going forward, but then I put a brand on the back of it, which is 9B1, which is the building number of our old building, and then the Blue Ridge Mountains with the sunrise over it, just kind of being a new day in the Blue Ridge. And so it was just a perfect tattoo to kind of memorialize and motivate.
Right, you look at it every day, and it reminds you, like, I've been through something, but you know what? Head on is the way I'm going to do it. So I love it.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted, something that was like, that would just to remember, but I also didn't want any flames, because obviously
well, the colors are gorgeous.
Yeah,
I mean,
so I did the sunrise, but
that's perfect.
So people have been pretty excited about it.
I love it. I'm the person on Pinterest just scrolling through beautiful tattoos.
Oh,
As soon as I saw ours, I was like, oh man, that looks so good.
Yeah.
And I love the coloring.
Me too.
Yeah,
For me, I'm still working on my version, because it won't be this bold and big. But our faith is really important to us, and we do believe that like a lot of the steps that we have taken have been ordained by God, and when we talk about the people, when we talk about the community, we're like, these are people that we couldn't possibly put our arms around. Like, we didn't know to ask for what we didn't know we needed, and people would show up and give us. And so when I see the tattoo and that like headstrong, face the storm, like Psalm 23 is something that's been consistently in my life. And that when I think of like, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'm like, that is what people, like, we feel like we face a version of darkness and a version of like the valley. And then we live in the mountains and the valley. Like, there was just so much symbolism when I see his tattoo. For me, it's like this daily reminder. But then there's also hope. There's a new morning and there's a new dawn every day. There's darkness to light. And every day there's like, we get to live in this beautiful city that feels like special, and it feels covered, and we feel protected in that. And so it makes it worth facing the storms. It makes it worth like pushing through, because there really is like hope in that new day.
Well, I love that, and I can't wait to see your tattoo.
Yeah, seriously. Me either. She said she was going to get one for our 40th, and now we're 46, so she hasn't gotten it yet. So.
Well, you know,
but
my husband's the same thing. Like, now I gotta figure out what I want. Now I've made it this far. Maybe I'm like, no, you need one just to match me. It's fine.
Yes.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners or to readers? You know, it could be about the award, about the support, whatever this is your son.
Yeah, I think, I mean, ultimately, it was our intention to thank everyone that's helped us, but there's just so many.
It's a long, good list.
So many to individually thank. So we're just super appreciative of everyone's support through this, and I mean, we hope to be a resource to support other people in the same circumstances in the future, and show them how to move forward through something like this. But yeah, just overwhelming gratitude for the people of this community is. I mean, I wish that I could shake everybody's hand and say thank you for all of the things that, I mean, we think about. We tried to write down things as they were happening, because everything was coming so fast, but there's just so much. It was
consider this the auditory handshake.
Yeah. So this is my thank you to everybody that helped us, and just kept us on the path and motivated us to continue.
Well, and to our close family and friends, and we do have an inner circle of friends that we text in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning, and brothers and sisters and parents and
for sure.
extended family that have all been a part of that larger community. It's like, it makes me think of that Drew Holcomb song, Find Your People.
Yeah.
And so, in the
people
valley,
are
we're here. We're tangible. You know, our city's not too big, so.
And you have been since you moved here, but I think now even more so, obviously.
Yeah.
And I like that you pointed out now you are able to help people in other ways too, not just as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, but now as somebody who's been through the storm and can help other people who are going through their own storms.
Absolutely,
totally.
That was. I mean, honestly, we were at a lacrosse game when Donnie D's caught on fire. And we went straight over there.
That was another moment of.
I think I can remember them posting like y'all were like,
we went.
People show up and just be there.
We went there and I mean, there was no like. By the time we left the game and went over there because we're like, I don't know if there's somebody that needs to hug or something. Then, but they had gotten it out and, but it just like in the aftermath of that, it's just not something.
Right.
And then
They've
there's
been
been so many more.
And they probably really appreciated you just simply showing up.
Yeah, and they weren't there by the time we got there, but they've done a lot to recover as well, and we tried to comment and share things to help them get back on their feet, but there's been so many other tragic like fires and in the nail salon in Franklin and all of those things, like just there's no insurance that's worth the pain of doing of going through something like this, and so just having other people that have experienced that, and so we'd love to be a resource in any way for people that are dealing with that in the future, or even if people have questions of what kind of coverage they need from insurance. We've learned a lot.
You know more than you used to.
We've learned a lot about insurance, so but yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time and appreciate you being the buffalo through all this. So really, again, congratulations on your Star of the Star City. Really appreciate your time today. Justin and Keri of VanBlaricom, thank you for being here and sharing your perspectives so openly. I know it's not always easy to talk about these in-between moments, but they're often the ones that people connect with the most and probably need to hear the most sometimes.
Absolutely.
So again, congratulations. So appreciate your time. So
thank you so much.
Thank you. And to our listeners, you can read more about Justin and Noke Van Co. and our Best of Roanoke coverage at theroanoker.com. So as always, thank you for listening to From Print to Podcast. It's one of my very favorite ways to bring these stories beyond the page into real conversations with the people behind them. Stay tuned for more episodes highlighting our region. Grab the latest issue on newsstands now and always read more at theroanoker.com. And until next time, this has been From Print to Podcast, where print comes to life one great story at a time.